Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the Online Series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we are trying out one of the highest performing Lugia teams in the in-real-life circuit from the past couple of months. This was a really fun team built by two players, John Hu and Rajan Ball, and it features none other than Lugia. So, as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps linked in the description below. There's also a really incredible video team report featuring the original creators of this team, as well as Adi, who is a phenomenal VGC content creator. So, if you want to learn more about this team, I highly recommend you watch that video because that is the best insight that you're really going to get about this team. So, yeah, thank you so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please show your support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I want to know how you would buff Lugia given that we're using it today. So, of course I wanted to feature this team because, first of all, Lugia is just not a common Pokemon in the format at all, and this team almost actually, top cut the Indianapolis Regional Championships. John just finished outside of the top 16 and ended up finishing the top 32 of that tournament with this exact team. So, the general idea is to ideally activate Weakness Policy on Lugia. You've got Sucker Punch from Grimmsnarl, you've got Volt Switch from Regieleki, and both of those are really great in enabling the Weakness Policy to go off. And so let's talk a little bit about Lugia. It's not exactly that common because its damage output is pretty underwhelming without the Weakness Policy, right? So that's why you have the Weakness Policy to begin with. It's also a Pokemon that I think is a lot stronger when Dynamaxed rather than outside of Dynamax because, you get so much more value out of like Max Airstream and Max Hailstorm rather than like Aeroblast and Blizzard, for example. And the cool thing about Lugia, there are a couple of things. First of all, it's actually really speedy relative to most of the other restricteds in the format. Of course, you're going to get outsped by Calyrex, Shadow, and Zacian, but you actually outspeed practically everything else that you really see in terms of restricteds. And that's pretty cool, right? Being faster than things like Charizard is really valuable in this format. Multi-skill is also an incredible ability, making it difficult for your opponent to easily KO Lugia. And, there's often a very good chance instead of you activating your own policy, your opponent will activate it for you, which is really, really sweet, right? And so the thing about Lugia is ideally you want to just, get the policy off as quickly as possible and then really just, start picking up one-hit knockouts onto your opponent. Lugia actually has really good type coverage between Aeroblast, Blizzard, and Earth Power, so keep that in mind. One other thing that's really important with this team is that Lugia can use Max Quake via Earth Power to boost Groudon's special defense, and this Groudon is a bulk up set, right? And so you can actually chain boosts really quickly between bulk up and max quake, right? Like let's say you have Groudon and Lugia out on the field at the same time, you go for a bulk up and a max quake on the same turn, suddenly Groudon just gets 3 stat boosts immediately and it has leftovers so it can heal back a little bit each turn, and then Incineroar here is really valuable for Intimidate to lower your opponent's attack, right? And so I think that combination here is really, really cool to see. In addition, you have some other fun tricks on this team, including Trick Grimmsnarl with Iron Ball. This, is a set that's decently common these days, but you've actually got Sucker Punch and Spirit Break. Sucker Punch not only is valuable for activating your Lugia's weakness policy, but it's really nice into things like Calyrex Shadow Rider, which is, one of the most common restricteds right now, and to just break potential Focus Sashes on other Pokemon. The Regieleki and the Incineroar here are really standard. The one thing to point out here is that Incineroar, of course, has Throat Chop rather than Darkest Lariat, so you can use that to stop opposing parting shots from other Incineroars if they're slower than you. And with Venusaur here, you're actually Kobe Berry with Helping Hand. Helping Hand's really cool. It's actually a tech that I've really never seen on Venusaurs before at a high level, and to be honest, I didn't even know Venusaur had Helping Hand before seeing this team. And so that allows you to get some extra damage output that your opponents normally wouldn't expect. One thing that you can do is, lead like Grimmsnarl Lugia or Lecky Lugia early, and then sweep the game with late game Venusaur and Groudon. That Helping Hand support is also really nice next to Groudon, and one of the other upsides of Helping Hand is that it's, often going to go, or it is just going to go before Fake Out, right? And that's really important because a lot of times when players see Venusaur, they try to click Fake Out onto it to deny it Sleep Powder. So you could just go with something like Venusaur, Groudon, Venusaur, Lugia, and just Helping Hand, get a big Precipice Blaze or even a max move off from either Pokemon, which I think is really cool. So, yeah, I mean, not very many players have tried out Lugia, and very few have succeeded with it in real-life tournaments. And, I actually got to commentate John's first game with it on stream, and it was just so fun. I'll link it down in the description below from regionals if you want to check it out. But, yeah, really excited to show off what Lugia can do in this format. So thanks to John and Rajan once again for the team, and thanks to you all as always for watching. Let's get started. Alright, our first match of the day here, and we're actually up against Galarian Darmanitan Hyper Offense. This was a team that a player called Chef used to get top 4 at, I believe it was a regionals over in Europe. So, unfortunately, it's actually one of the most anti-Lugia teams I think I've ever seen. Between Darmanitan and the Thundurus and the Calyrex. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't bring Lugia, right? Because that also means there's a very good chance they actually activate the weakness policy for us. And that's always valuable. So the question is who we want to bring here. And also as an extension, who we want to maybe leave on the bench. For example, Grimmsnarl is actually still interesting to me here because we've got speed control, right? With this, I can just go for Trick immediately and put an Iron Ball into something. I could also Sucker Punch into the Calyrex. The other thing to note is that my opponent's Whimsicott here is Eject Button, but it doesn't actually have Trick. So that's important information. Like, I could just go Groudon, Grimm, Incin, Lugia. The question is in what order, right? I'm kind of down for a Lugia Grimmsnarl lead here with Incineroar and Groudon in the back. Even though it seems like it's an awful matchup for Lugia, I think Lugia can actually still be really solid here because it's almost guaranteed that the weakness policy activates given the amount of super effective hits that they have. But it's Choice Scarf on the Urshifu, Choice Scarf on the Darmanitan, Choice Ban on the Urshifu, Focus Sash on Calyrex, Eject Button on Whimsicott. It's actually going to be Whimsicott and Calyrex immediately. Okay. That works for me. What do I want to go for on turn 1? Let's see. They could obviously just go for Helping Hand into Astral Barrage turn 1. So, like, it's actually pretty interesting to go for Protect and then just go for a Sucker Punch immediately onto Calyrex. They could also just Astral Barrage and Moonblast, right? Could also consider Tailwinding here. Sucker Punch is tempting. Like, I could also just get a double KO to start this game, no? And then they'd be down to their final 2 Pokemon immediately. Okay, I'm actually interested in that, because what I can do is actually just max Hailstorm Whimsicott and just Sucker Punch into Calyrex. The Hailstorm here, by the way, is to activate the Hail, obviously, so that Calyrex faints after the Hail. Because then the idea is you're going to have Zacian in the back, right? But with Zacian, I can just bring in Incineroar for Intimidate. I guess the main question is what my opponent's 4th Pokemon is, because I think, like, Thundurus is by far the strongest Dynamax option on that team. So if it is Thundurus, obviously that's going to cause me some issues, because I've got this Defiant, and they go for Helping Hand, yeah. Because I've got this Defiant, I've got Incineroar in the back, so I could activate Defiant. But we are just going to get Sucker Punch off. That should bring you down to Sash. Perfect. That's what we're expecting. This actually also means they don't get Speed Control, which is a pretty big deal. And even though, like, that was a Helping Hand Astral Barrage, Lugia takes that pretty well. And you've just activated Weakness Policy. Perfect. I actually maybe could have just gone away with an Airstream there, but I like the idea of picking up a double knockout to start this game, because I don't think my opponent's ever expecting to lose both Pokemon immediately. So then the thing is, now with Grimmsnarl, I have Trick as well as the Thunder Wave, right? So let's say you have Thundurus plus Zacian as your final 2. I can Trick the Iron Ball into Thundurus, protect the Lugia, and then bring in Incineroar, fake out Zacian, max Hailstorm into the Thundurus slot. So not a bad start for us here. And this is what I mean, right? Like, yes, my opponent has a lot of super effective attacks into Lugia, but with our ability and with Dynamax, like, we can actually take it decently well, right? That was a Helping Hand Astral Barrage. It's one of the most powerful attacks you can really have in the game against Lugia, and we still survive. Okay, it's actually Darmanitan and Zacian. Interesting. I mean, it means that your only Dynamax option really is Darmanitan at this point. Let's see. The Darmanitan on their end also doesn't have Protect, so, like, I think it's pretty safe to go for Max Guard here. Let's get the Iron Ball onto the Darmanitan. And then we can just KO Darmanitan the next turn. Yeah. It helps a little bit here because I know my opponent's full team composition. But the main thing here is basically, like, part of the way that the opposing team is designed to win is to, like, you know, overwhelm you with offense and try to knock you out before you can move. So the fact that we can survive hits, first of all, is a really big deal. Like, because the team is on the opposing side is relatively frail, we can take advantage of that, right? So this max card is fairly obvious, but I'm still going to go for it because it's just always a guaranteed trick onto the Darmanitan here, which is great for us. So we're going to give the Iron Ball. I'm going to take away Choice Scarf here. They're just going to go for Behemoth Blade on Grimmsnarl. That's perfect. Now I get Incineroar out, and I can just fake out plus Airstream. Groudon being the final one for us also is really solid. Cool. It also means I could have actually just attacked with Lugia here, but I didn't like the idea of eating a Behemoth Blade here, especially if we, like, get crit, for example. So there's just Hailstorm onto Lugia, no problem. The only interesting thing to think about this turn is whether or not I want to, like, intentionally Quake into Zacian, but... Because I'm not actually sure a +2 max Airstream KOs the Darmanitan right now. But with the Intimidate here, I think we have a pretty good endgame, especially with Groudon being our final Pokemon. So, yeah, I'm down to just Airstream into Darm here. Actually, with the Intimidate, I actually think it's fine to click Flare Blitz onto Darmanitan. I guess the only problem is if they crit, like, Behemoth Blade onto Lugia. Am I still playing around a crit in this endgame anyway? No, I think it's safer to just click Fake Out here. Even if we don't KO Darmanitan, it's fine. Yeah, Zacian goes for the obvious Protect, but, like, I'm fine with that, right? Because now I get a Speed Boost onto the Incineroar. So Incin, I think, actually should outspeed the Darmanitan because it has Iron Ball and we have a Speed Boost. Yeah, +2 Airstream almost gets the KO there. Not bad, though. I'll take it. I also wonder if Darmanitan even KOs Lugia here. That's the other question, right? Because we have Multiscale and I intimidated them. So let's see. Nope, that is not enough for a KO. Beautiful. Well done, Lugia. Like, when you look at my opponent's team, it feels like so hard to bring Lugia, right? But I think the main advantage here is that they didn't actually bring Thundurus, and that was one of the... probably the Pokemon I was most nervous against playing, and I'm actually very surprised they didn't bring it, because if you look at team preview, like, Thundurus is just really good across the board, right? If I bring in Instant, it activates Defiant, it's good into Lugia, it's good into Venusaur, you don't really care that much about Electro Web from Regieleki, so I think that's like an adjustment my opponent can make if we were to play this game again. But now we can just go for the Earth Power here onto the Zacian slot, and just Flare Blitz onto Darmanitan. And with Groudon in the back, there's really not much my opponent can do. It's actually technically more optimal here, I think, to target the Darmanitan slot. Actually, I don't really think it makes a difference if Earth Power is getting that knockout anyway. Because we should just be faster here, yeah. I was going to say it's technically a little bit more optimal to target Darm just because I know it doesn't have Protect or any move that allows it to max guard. So then it would just guarantee a knockout onto that slot. So then, you know, covers for Zacian going for any, like, double Protect shenanigans. But it doesn't actually matter because Incineroar is faster than the Darmanitan after the Iron Ball. So this was a really interesting one where I didn't actually self-activate the weakness policy, but we didn't necessarily need it because Lugia... there's like a very good chance your opponent will activate your policy for you. And against like that team composition specifically, there is just so much that can activate my policy between Astral Barrage from Calyrex, Wicked Blow from Urshifu, Max Lightning / an Electric type attack from Thundurus, you know, just to name a couple, for example. So yeah, that was a really fast-paced game, and it's rare to see this team like put on so much offense early on, but you know, getting that double knockout immediately, I'm sure caught my opponent off guard, meant that they couldn't get speed control, and then meant that they were essentially stuck with Dynamax Darmanitan. I'd actually tried out that team for a couple of games, and I think it's a very powerful team. One thing that's kind of tough about it is really like learning how to maximize your Dynamax usage, and I was doing it pretty poorly when I was trying out the team, because Thundurus is like by far the best Dynamax option with that team, and so with my opponent not even bringing it, right, like they just got very little value out of Dynamax to begin with. And so, yeah, I think Thundurus would be the adjustment they could make if we were to play that one again. So, yeah, a nice win for Lugia here to get started, though, so let's look for another. Next game here, and we've actually got Lunala Groudon, which is one of my favorite pairings at the moment, with Instant Porygon, Venusaur, and Thundurus. So, the Porygon slot, you can often see a bunch of different slots, like Urshifu, for example, Charizard, Grimmsnarl. Okay, so this one is interesting because I have to be very careful about Venusaur putting Lugia to sleep with the Sleep Powder immediately. And so that's honestly really scary. One thing I could do is like trick Iron Ball into it and then max Airstream. That's actually a really cool solution to it, actually, now that I think about it. So I think it might just be Grim, Lugia, Instant, and Groudon again. I mean, Venusaur is like a little bit interesting here because first of all, I can actually switch it into a Sleep Powder. And then, like, there's Helping Hand, Leaf Storm, Earth Power, Sleep Powder. We could use it to put their team to sleep. I think I'm generally okay with this. Eleki could be an interesting thing to consider in a best of 3, solely for, like... you could Dynamax it even for Max Lightning. Although I think that's honestly not very strong. So, we'll see. Lunala Groudon is, I think, yet incredibly powerful and still underplayed duo at the moment. So I think the Grimmsnarl can pull off a lot for us here. They're going to go Lunala and Thundurus. Okay, that's definitely interesting. Because what we can do here, for example, is like trick the Iron Ball into Thundurus. To be honest, they're probably max Airstreaming here anyway. I could also steal Power Herb away from Lunala, which is interesting. Oh my gosh, what's happening there? My controller just started making moves. Because if you're my opponent, you could like Airstream Lugia, right? And then like Meteor Beam. Or just Moongeist Beam. I'm pretty interested in the idea of Trick onto Thundurus here, because it's like pretty clearly going to be the Dynamax option. And then switch out into Groudon. The idea of switching out into Groudon here is like I can actually pressure with Bulk Up, which I think is kind of cool. But, you know, the alternative was actually just protecting Lugia there, which may have been a little bit better. So they should Dynamax Thundurus here, I would expect that. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is maybe I don't need to be that worried about Lugia taking too much damage. I think here Thundurus like could get baited into clicking Max Lightning, but if I'm in my opponent's shoes, I'm always clicking Max Airstream here because, you know, Max Lightning is obviously a disaster into a Groudon switch in. But if they were to go for that, I mean, it would put us in an absolutely phenomenal position. I think the most likely action here is that they double up onto Grimmsnarl. So it's tough because I wanted to trick both Pokemon, honestly. Okay, it is just Meteor Beam. That's fine. This is why Trick onto Lunala would have been interesting, though, because then I just take away the Power Herb. So, like, it's a pretty risky play to go for Meteor Beam immediately like that. But it ends up paying off for them. Curious who they target. Because I was thinking, your play maybe is to Airstream or Lightning plus Meteor Beam into the Lugia slot, but it's actually, yeah, just going to be an Airstream. It does KO Grimmsnarl, which is a little bit less than ideal. Because if I had gone for Trick onto the Lunala turn 1, then the next turn I could actually just Sucker Punch, Dynamax Lugia, Max Airstream it, and then we're really moving, right? So now what do I want to do? I think I'm willing to bring out Lugia here. It's pretty hard for my opponent to play around the weakness policy. The problem is that Thundurus can just get another speed boost right now. You don't have AV anymore, so your damage output's like not amazing. You can Airstream plus like Moongeist Beam into Groudon potentially here. I think that's their most likely course of action. Honestly, here I think I'm down to Dynamax, Airstream into the Lunala slot, and actually Protect into Groudon. Because I want to stall out another turn of Dynamax on Thundurus. Also, I think Bulk Up Groudon here can be really valuable into the endgame. Turn 1, like, clicking Sucker Punch onto Lunala is actually also a really interesting option, because then I can just Sucker Punch Airstream. I think I probably shouldn't have been so scared with Lugia here, because first of all, I think it's really rare for them to click Max Lightning and like a Moongeist Beam or Meteor Beam into it, and even if they did, I'm not sure they KO, right? Okay, so Groudon's going to Protect here. I'd really like to just get Bulk Up, like 1 or 2 off with it. Moongeist Beam into the Protect, okay, perfect. It is also a little bit frustrating now because the Lunala actually is faster, right? Urshifu actually did more than I expected there, to be honest, so we'll take it. Thundurus is going to keep Airstreaming as well, but the Thundurus is grounded, which is cool because now I can Precipice Blades it. Oh, it's Max Darkness, okay. Which makes sense because you're Assault Vest on Thundurus, so that's normally coming from Foul Play and Crunch. Also gives you a better matchup in a Calyrex Shadow Rider. So I do have a special defense drop on both Pokemon, but what's really critical here is that they didn't actually get another speed boost up, right? Because now it means Lugia gets the speed advantage, right? Because like Lunala is slower. So that's actually a really big deal because what it allows me to do is actually just click Max Airstream and just click Precipice Blades here. Bulk Up is normally tempting here, but like there's too much damage from my opponent's end for me to feel comfortable going for it. The only problem here is I'm not sure I KO Lunala. That would be pretty sad. Let's see. Boy, we missed Precipice Blades. Okay, that's frustrating. It happens, though. It happens. I guess the question is whether or not I can take a Moongeist Beam with -1 speed def at them being at +1 special attack, but I'm not counting on it. I think it may have been worthwhile to switch Groudon out in that position. Yeah, it's an awful miss. They're going to Airstream double up into it. It was worthwhile to switch into Incin there, because I don't really have to care about a Defiant boost that much, given that their Dynamax would end the next turn, because then I could actually just max Hailstorm Thundurus. So, that's really frustrating. But I didn't play that optimally. We could still win with Lugia and Incin in this endgame, but I think it's pretty tough because Lugia really needs to pick up more KOs, right? So, I don't know how bulky Lunala was there and whether or not like I could have actually knocked it out, but now we won't even have the chance to find out. And that's sad. But I think for my opponent's shoes, like you're always doubling up into the Groudon slot there, so I think Groudon should always switch into Incin that last turn rather than like risk a Precipice Blades miss, right? So, kind of put it on myself, and I get punished for it, unfortunately. We can Hailstorm now into Thundurus and go for Throat Chop onto Lunala. They're going to have Groudon plus a 4th in the back. The big question is what their 4th is. What's interesting here is with Lunala, like, do you actually click Moongeist Beam? Because then it would actually activate my weakness policy. And then with policy activated, maybe Lugia plus Instinct can still win the game. I feel like Precipice Blades would have KO'd Lunala there, but I really don't know, like, their HP and defense investment there. And like I said, like, I could have risked, or I could have played around it, right? This game, I actually felt like I had a lot of tools to deal with my opponent. And, like, turn 1, for example, if I just tricked away the Power Herb, I would have been in really great shape as well. But, that was a little, yeah, I wanted to, like, get the Iron Ball to Thundurus because I was like, oh, that's, like, the scarier threat to me right now, but it wasn't actually that valuable. It's going to be Moongeist Beam here. Yep. Probably into Incin. Yeah, that's a great job because then you set up for the Groudon in the back, right? So then that's Groudon plus a 4th, but I don't think I have enough firepower now, so... this game is a great example of how you can like play around RNG, where like Precipice Blades doesn't have the best accuracy, and I didn't know whether or not I was going to get the knockout onto Lunala there anyway. I mean, if we do connect and get the KO there, then like I think we're in almost a game-winning position, to be honest, because then their late game damage output into Groudon is pretty underwhelming. But their play was pretty telegraphed there, because I think you're pretty much always doubling up into the Groudon slot. And one thing my opponent did really well in this game was not activating my weakness policy either. Is it Venusaur and Groudon here? If it's Venusaur and Groudon, it's still potentially winnable. I guess the question is, like, with the... What do you do with the Venusaur? I wonder if another Airstream on Lugia was worth it there. It also is probably just Sash Venu here, and if that's the case, then it's really tough to do much. They could obviously just fish for Sleep Powder here. I am at -1 special defense as well. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just going to Aeroblast here and Flare Blitz onto the Venusaur slot. Okay, Aeroblast does connect, but I think you're Sash here. If you weren't Sash, I actually think we'd also maybe win the game. Oh, wow, it's bulky enough to take that. Okay, they just Weather Ball into Lugia. Oof. Oh, your Life Orb. And it still survives after that, but they miss Stone Edge. Okay. Well, that gives us a chance. Given that they had Venusaur in the back, though, I'm not sure, like, Groudon would have just had the game won for us, right? It's a big miss, though. Okay. Oh, now the game gets really interesting. Do you just target the Lugia with Stone Edge here? Because I could protect Lugia and Flare Blitz into Groudon. Or do you just click Precipice Blades instead, right? I think I'm willing to go for the Protect into Flare Blitz here, because if they do actually target Lugia, it suddenly becomes really hard for them to win the game. Okay, so we're going to Protect here. They do go for Blades, though. Yeah, that's the correct play. Now, I do have Shukaberry, but I'm not surviving here, I don't think. They're probably Assault Vest Groudon, if I had to guess, given that they have Stone Edge. Instant survives, though. Wow, if Instant was to survive that, then actually it was correct to just target attack with Lugia there. Because 2 Blizzards would have probably KO'd. But I was just making the read that they would Stone Edge into Lugia and that we wouldn't survive Blades from that range. Because if they had just clicked Stone Edge into Lugia there, then, you know, we'd be in the same position, but suddenly I get another Flare Blitz or 2 Blizzards off. So I don't mind going for that play. Yeah, I think we just go for Blizzard here. I guess there's also the chance they're not AV and we actually KO. Blizzard does connect, but I think they should be Assault Vest here. So maybe it wasn't AV. Wow. Well, that was definitely a game. In the end, I mean, it was like a Precipice Blades miss for a Stone Edge miss, which feels somewhat fair. But that was one of those games where it's like, I feel like I had so many windows to win, or so many opportunities to win. I didn't do a really great job capitalizing off them until it was a little bit too late. Because, like, yeah, if I just go for that trick play onto Lunala turn 1 and Dynamax Lugia and just Airstream, I think my opponent's in terrible shape. Because then on turn 2, I can just Sucker Punch to KO the Lunala and prevent it from doing anything. I guess then, though, I'm still playing against Thundurus, Venusaur, and Groudon, and I have Vincent and Groudon. They have Life Orb Venu, meaning that Leaf Storm can one-shot Groudon. So, yeah, maybe it's actually not... Maybe it's still not as clean of an endgame as I thought it was, but... I mean, that was definitely not the cleanest of victories, but we'll take it. You can kind of see, though, like, Lugia, that Aeroblast into a Life Orb, not even a Cobra or a Sash Venusaur couldn't bring it down to range where it would faint, right? So that's, once again, the downside of Lugia's damage output, but that was a banger of a game, so let's look for one more. And before we do, we can actually check the team from the last one. So it's actually Timid Lunala with Moongeist Beam, Meteor Beam, Wide Guard, and Trick Room. Wide Herb on Groudon, so that was the item. So it's interesting because I was expecting it to be AV given Stone Edge, just because like Stone Edge isn't exactly the most consistent on a non-AV Groudon. Like you often see Rock Tomb or Rock Slide, but you know we obviously got pretty lucky to let it miss there. Shook on Incin, pretty classic. Eviolite on Porygon 2, very standard set there. Life Orb on the Venusaur here. Does have some bulk. The Weather Ball, and then Assault Vest on the Thundurus here. Yep. Cool team. There are a lot of different ways you can run Lunala right now, so yeah, let's look for one more. Oof, third game of the day, and it's Yveltal, Kyogre, Togedemaru. I don't love Yveltal, because it can Snarl and Foul Play Lugia. I mean, it would activate my policy, I suppose. I mean, Lugia's really solid against pretty much everything else, though. Togedemaru is the main thing, right? Like, we ideally want to eliminate that sooner than later. Sturdy is going to be a problem, though. And, like, the thing about Grimmsnarls here is that it accomplishes very little. Actually, it does have Spirit Break here into Yveltal. That in itself could be valuable. One thing I do have to be very careful about here, though, is weakness policy Yveltal, especially because it could be, like, self-volt switch Togedemaru into Yveltal. I do wonder if this is a potential matchup for Venusaur, given Sleep Powder. I just don't want to rely on it, but, like, if we put Yveltal to sleep here, it's actually incredible. I could see them going Togedemaru plus Yveltal lead. Okay, I'm kind of interested in Venusaur plus Lugia, Groudon in the back. What do I want as the fourth? I think Alecki, because with Focus Sash here, it means we can actually deal good damage into Kyogre and Yveltal. Grimmsnarl just doesn't feel great here, because I don't think I actually get that much value out of Trick. I guess Trick would be good into Kyogre, that's the main thing. But yeah, I think Yveltal Ogre into Lugia, Groudon, like in terms of restricted, this definitely favors my opponent. Now, if they didn't have Togedemaru, I could even consider Dynamaxing Regieleki, but they have Togedemaru. This is an interesting lead, though. Whimsicott and Togedemaru, it's very passive. But the idea here is not to deal damage, but rather disrupt me in the early game, right? Because you can, like, Nuzzle and Tailwind immediately. What do I want to do here? Like, they're not going to do much damage, right? You could Fake Out with Togedemaru. I expect Nuzzle into the Venusaur slot here, I think. So, like, I'm down to switch out in a Groudon and Earth Power turn 1 onto Togedemaru. And then switch Groudon back out the next turn. What's tempting here is, like, I could just, you know, Dynamax Lugia, Max Hailstorm into Whimsicott. But let's say my opponent just Tailwinds and then Nuzzles. Like, then I'm just in a weird spot. Yep, so there's Tailwind, no Fake Out. Also not a surprise. Yeah, okay, yeah, there's the Nuzzle into Groudon. Cool, cool, cool. I mean, that turn 1 worked out well, but this is still a really scary situation, in my opinion. Okay, now where do we go from here? Because they have Kyogre in the back, so, like, I obviously want to win the Weather War. It could be interesting to Dynamax Lugia and actually just max Hailstorm, but, like, I kind of want to max Venusaur in this endgame because of Vine Lash, to be honest. I mean, is there ever a world in which I just attack with both Pokemon here? The thing is, I feel like I should switch out Groudon because I kind of need to win the Weather War against Kyogre for Venusaur to really have value. I ideally want to get an Electro Web off with Alecki. Wait, what if I Dynamax... Ooh, okay. I can switch Groudon out into Alecki. Yes. Dynamax and Airstream into Togedemaru. Basically, the logic here is I don't want to knock out both of my opponent's Pokemon right now. If I KO both, then they get 2 free switch-ins, and it's Kyogre Yveltal with multiple turns of Tailwind to use. With this play, I can knock out the Togedemaru and give the Regieleki a speed boost. Once Regieleki gets a speed boost, they can actually Electro Web my opponent, very likely before they can even get an attack off. Right? Alecki is just so fast. I give it an angle to self-Volt Switch and a Lugia to activate Policy as well. So we'll see. No! I really thought the Sash would be on Whimsicott. But I just realized, I mean, it's a Lightning Rod on the Togedemaru, right? Oh, I walked right into that. Okay. It's honestly still winnable, but that's so demoralizing because I was like, oh, I have this really big brain play. And then it was not big brain. Yeah, Switcheroo Whimsicott is just one of those things that, like, you always have to be aware of, but in best of one, it can really just get you sometimes, right? Okay. Still not over, though. We can still do this. And go ahead and Groudon. Basically, if I want to win this game, I need to Electro Web and also make sure they never get a second Tailwind up. They only have 2 turns, which isn't great news for me. Like, here, honestly, Protect and Bulk Up is pretty interesting. Actually, I shouldn't Protect, right? I want to KO Whimsicott next turn. So maybe we just switch Alecki out into Lugia and Bulk Up. Honestly, in Team Preview, in my head, I was like, oh, you're going to have Sturdy on the Togedemaru and Sash on Whimsicott. Okay, Spiky Shield, that's fine by me. What is Whimsicott going for? Could be just Switcheroo to steal away another item. Moonblast and a Lugia, that's fine by me. It's actually a surprising amount of damage, to be honest. I just, like, the reason this is so difficult now is I have to deal with the Kyogre. Okay, it's the last turn of Tailwind. Like, I want to just go for a double knockout right now. Aeroblast and Rock Slide. The question is where we really go from there. Toge actually switches out, meaning I could have... Okay, it is Yveltal, though. I'll take that. Yep. I should have thought a little bit harder about what the item on Whimsicott was going to be. Okay, Taunt onto Groudon. That's fine. This actually denies them Tailwind, which is a pretty big deal. Well, if I don't get full parrot on Lugia. Holy cow, that was a lot of damage. Oh, but your Policy. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No full para at least, though, so that's good. But the problem is now it's just Kyogre Yveltal. That's not fun. Well, not necessarily, actually, right? Hold on. Okay, so there's always a way in which we can win because, like, I can switch Groudon out and, like, regain Sleep Powder. Or, sorry, Sun Access for Sleep Powder. I mean, this game is just so hard, right? Because I'm playing without a Dynamax, essentially. If they weren't Switcheroo, though, on the Whimsicott with the eject button, we would have been in really great shape, but alas. I would Dynamax Kyogre here so that you have weather control, honestly. I'm gonna Aeroblast Yveltal. I think Aeroblast Yveltal and Protect Groudon here is the play I want to make, because then I can bring out Alecki and Electro Web. Or Sleep Powder. Oh, I'm taunted. I forgot about that. That's not good. Honestly, the play may have been to just give up both Pokemon there. Because my opponent's probably just going to Water Spout. Oh, it depends on whether or not you Dynamax. Oh, they don't max either. Okay. That gives us a fighting chance, maybe. Ugh, Yveltal just heals back so much, though. Yeah, and they Water Spout. Like, the one thing that makes this winnable now is that I do get Groudon out next to Venusaur, and with the Venusaur that can obviously Sleep Powder. So, I'll tell you what my opponents play. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, are you willing to go for Protect on either Pokemon? If I were my opponent, what would I do right now? Great decision not to Dynamax Yveltal there. Because they just heal back so much, and now I'm in really bad shape. Like, Yveltal Kyogre was already a pretty ugly matchup here, right? But now it's even like, ugh. If I were my opponent, like, I would just Oblivion Wing and Dynamax and Geyser into Groudon, I think. Okay. So I'm going to switch Groudon out into Regieleki. Like, I think we're going to need some good RNG to win this game. I'm probably going to need to hit multiple Sleep Powders. Okay. Oh, this is smart. The idea here is that they're just going to protect Yveltal, right? If they end up Dynamaxing Yveltal here, though, that's our path back to winning. Yeah, great play. I can't really get around that other than clicking Earth Power onto the Kyogre slot, but that's obviously a really volatile move. Now, you can just fake out Venusaur, Dynamax, and Max Airstream that slot. And this is where the Togedemaru protecting is so valuable. I guess I can Electro Web, though. Helping Hand Electro Web? I mean, I'm down. I don't really think I have anything better. Like, they have to click Fake Out onto Venu here, right? Yeah, and Dynamax Airstream. The problem is I just don't KO Yveltal here with Groudon and Eleki. I needed to KO Togedemaru in this early game. This is where, like, me just not thinking about Switcheroo for one turn completely messes up the dynamic of this game. Because, like, if I have a Dynamax to play with, Dynamax Lugia can actually be really strong. The other problem was them actually being weakness policy on the Yveltal. And if I had eliminated Togedemaru a little bit earlier, late game Eleki would have been excellent for us here. But alas, that is not the case. But as soon as, you know, I saw this Sash... Wait, okay, that's actually pretty meaningful damage. Hold on. Maybe we can still win. Right? Wait, they targeted Regieleki? Whoa. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. I could Helping Hand Electro Web again. I don't think that KOs Yveltal, though. Like, your play here is to probably Spiky Shield Togedemaru. I have Sleep Powder. That's the thing, right? I could just click Sleep Powder onto Yveltal. Alright, I'm gonna go for it. Expecting Spiky Shield. Ah, they didn't Spiky Shield. The other play there was to just have Earth Powered and Thunderbolts, and that would have won us the game. But I thought that was so risky with the threat of Spiky Shield. Okay, I think they win the game now. Unless they targeted Venusaur and not the Eleki slot. Oh. I should have just gone for it, I guess, but it's like, I feel like I would Spiky Shield there almost always. Wait, but they nuzzle into Venusaur. Okay. Now, the reason that's a big deal is because if I knock out Yveltal, then I'll actually win the Weather War, meaning Groudon can just press Blades in the end game, right? I'm neutral. You're +1. Neutral. I'm gonna go for another Electro Web and just an Earth Power here. I was really surprised they didn't KO the Regieleki here. Their target selection in this endgame was interesting. I think it, like, benefited me. I'm just frustrated because if I actually just, like, made the really, really big play of Earth Power T-Bolt, that's a game over. But it's such a hard play to make there, because if they just Spiky Shield, I immediately lose the game, so I'm not willing to take that chance. But we somehow dealt with Dynamax Yveltal, didn't lose a single Pokemon along the way, which I'll take. I think my opponent should have just targeted the Venusaur slot, because as soon as you get a knockout, you win the Weather War, and that's a big deal. And they Zing Zap into a Lecky, okay. Do I get parried here? No para. So now the endgame is Groudon, Kyogre, Venu, but I win the Weather War. So my other question is, how fast is the Kyogre? It still favors my opponent here, I think. But yeah, I mean, at least we're in a position where we could win when I was feeling really doomed. Yeah. Part of me is like, maybe I should have just gone for the big plays, since like I was playing this game without a Dynamax, but I don't know. It's like I felt like I could win there even if they but it's like an opportunity to just win the game immediately, right? Because if I had called that, then there's no way they can win, because I have a Lecky, Venu, and Groudon in that position. I could protect here, but honestly, I think the play is just Precipice Blades. Oh, I have Helping Hand Precipice Blades rather than Leaf Storming, and it's single target too. I think I'd rather go for this because I want to assume Kyogre's max speed here, and Helping Hand single target Blades might just be a one-shot. Oh, we get parried though. That's heartbreaking. Wait, did he KO Venusaur? Oh, what is this game? Yeah, Helping Hand was the correct play. If we get that, like, it would have just picked up the KO onto Kyogre. Oh, how did it not KO Venu, actually? I'm kind of shocked by that. I actually don't think it's worth protecting Groudon here. Like, I do get Leftovers recovery, but then the problem... Like, I think I should survive an Origin Pulse in the sun right now. The other question is, a single target Rock Slide KO here? I would think so. 75 versus 120 with same type attack bonus. Oh my gosh, I also just realized how low my time is. I think Rock Slide does get the knockout single target here. And they can miss this time around, so I actually will go for Leaf Storm as well, because you're going to click Origin Pulse here. Or Ice Beam. Yeah. They don't miss either, though. Okay. Does it KO Groudon? Oh, I really thought we'd survive. GG. GG. That was a really fun game. I mean, we were a para away from winning the game, though, right? So I can't be too upset about that, given the fact that I didn't play with the Dynamax in this game. So I'll take it. I'll take it. I didn't think Venusaur would survive there. I actually thought we had a good chance of surviving the Origin Pulse, too, given how little Water Spout did. So that may have been a damage roll in the end. But that game shows why you shouldn't give up, right? Like, obviously, it felt disastrous after I got ejected out, but the reality is that there were 2 turns where we could have won the game. If I had actually just clicked Earth Power and a Togedemaru T-Bolt onto Yveltal that turn, we could win, and if I had just not gotten parried there, then the Helping Hand would have boosted Precipice Blades enough to a point where we would have just gotten the knockout. So I don't really regret going for that. Like, you know, the odds aren't amazing there. It's 85% chance to hit with Precipice Blades, and I got to attack through the para chance, which is 75%. So it's still... more in my favor there, but it's not necessarily like the best odds. But you know what? I can't really complain. I think, yeah, the fact that we put ourselves in a position to win, I'm actually really happy about, given that I just got caught off guard by Switcheroo. And that's because in my head, mentally, like I always, when I see Togedemaru, I just assume it's like both Focus Sash, both Sturdy and Lightning Rod. So, as you know, when it got down to 1 HP, I didn't even think about the fact that it was actually Sash, even though it had been revealed, right? So then I should have thought a little bit harder about what the item on Whimsicott was, and, you know, once Sash is taken, it's very frequently eject button, then things like Koba, for example. And then in that position, then I just wouldn't Dynamax. But I don't regret making that play, because also if they weren't Switcheroo eject button there, I think we would have been in great shape. So obviously, I don't like losing, but that's a loss where honestly I can be pretty happy about, because it's like, I got completely caught off guard. I didn't have a Dynamax to play with and still found a really, like, solid path to victory there. The only thing I'd maybe want to, like, think about a little bit more is whether or not I should have just gone for the Earth Power plus Thunderbolt play, but I think that's just too risky, because if they Spiky Shield, I get nothing off the turn, and then if Yveltal wakes up, I actually lose the game immediately, right? Whereas in that end game, the odds were actually in our favor, even with me not making the read on targeting Togedemaru. So, yeah. That's going to be it for this one, though, so really, really happy to get some fun games in with Lugia. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, check out the team, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.